This episode of the Party Loaded podcast is proudly sponsored by Audible.com. Check out their awesome catalogue of audiobooks with over 180,000 titles to choose from. And be sure to grab a free audiobook on us and support the show by visiting audibletrial.com/endgame.
Let's party.
Hey, hello, and hi. It is happening. It's happening. It's episode 176 of the Party Loaded podcast. I'm here, Luke Retallick. I'm riding this fun buggy all the way down to Video Game Town, joined by, we have Christian Paulson Brown, we have Adrian Chia, and we have Matt, the Game Dad, I should say, the End Game Dad Diet. Hello.
Oh.
Yes. That was why I changed my name to on Twitter.
Yeah, I stole it from your Twitter bio. That's totally not me. That's all you. So
yes,
yeah. I assume you're still sort of feeling a little fresh from the events of the movie. You're still sort of on that high. Yep.
We're all feeling fresh, I think, after that. But then that Spider-Man trailer came out, and that was super exciting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, it ties in very much to our episode subject for tonight. Honestly,
absolutely, it does.
But let's not spoil anything.
Yes.
Man, spoiler culture's become just crazy intense these last few months. I mean, between Game of Thrones and Marvel stuff, and I mean, even this Spider-Man trailer had Tom Holland at the very beginning sort of saying, hey, this is a spoiler for the last movie that we launched. I mean, what the fuck has this turned into? This is just nuts. So,
but I mean, that it is a big spoiler. So if any trailer's going to have that, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's some big implications when it comes to spoilers and things like video games too, because video games are a massive time investment when something is going to get wrecked for you in terms of a story towards the end. So, unlike a movie, which is something that you might waste a couple of hours and be like, oh, this got spoiled for me because I knew something important was happening in it. You put like 80 hours into a game and then you already know the ending. That's a whole different kettle of fish. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky topic. Yeah.
It actually ties into something that happened today with Destiny 2 rather nicely. They put a new exotic weapon into the game. And there's a whole quest line to get it, but it's really like whenever Bungie does this sort of thing, they make it really accessible. So you're not going to a place and picking up a quest. There's a daily heroic area that you would go to, but the quest that would normally be there is on a different planet, which is highly unusual. And people kind of went, wait a second. And it turns out that if you pay attention while doing that quest, there's some clues in there that lead to this exotic being a thing. And there's riddles involved and everything and working it out. Like, it's really neat, but God forbid anybody tell me any of the quest steps for resolving that thing. Otherwise, I'll be super pissed.
Oh, yeah. No, I can totally understand that. That'd be a crime. So, hey, look, I mean, we didn't write you down first on the doc, Matt, but since we're talking about Destiny, let's just jump straight in, I think. So, what have you been doing in Destiny this week? I'm curious to see what's going on in that game right now.
I've been doing a whole lot of grinding for the different titles. So, Destiny has this really neat thing where you can get triumphs, which are basically like you've done these things in the game, you've achieved these difficult to achieve objectives, or things that just represent a whole lot of effort put into the game. But there's sets of triumphs that come together that can actually give you a title. And if you unlock a title before, I think it's like the end of August, you can actually get a special medallion from Bungie to represent the fact that you've unlocked that title in the game.
I've looked at these. Those titles are no easy feat to unlock. They are massive.
They are insanely difficult to get. So I've been working on the Wayfarer title because that's the easiest one to get, I say with finger quotes. The major problem with it is I never played a lot of the older DLC. And so I'm having to go back through old content. It's actually been a really good way to actually go back and jump into like the Curse of Osiris and Warmind and everything, and actually do a whole bunch of stuff there that I never did. Like I did the story.
Isn't that part of the problem with some of the triumphs and titles though? Like some of them are literally impossible to complete now if you didn't do stuff earlier on while events were live. Is that not the case?
No, absolutely not. You can actually work on them for now. And certainly there's one with the Dreaming City, where there's a lore item that drops once every 3 weeks. And so I'm several months behind on that one, but we did the math and it works out that I can actually complete that before August if I do the rest of the stuff as well. So yeah, like there's still things in there that are possible to do. It's when they've had like an event and you want to have a collection item. They haven't tied anything to like, you know, you have to have done the Revelry, the event that just wrapped up this week. You know, nothing about the Triumphs requires you to have done that to get a title anywhere. So
Right. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, no, there seems to be a bit of Destiny 2 buzz about this week. I'm not entirely sure what that's in relation to besides some weapon nerfing and things like that. But we're kind of in that weird period of the year at the moment where things are a little bit quiet. It's that like calm before the E3 storm. However big that storm actually ends up being this year, I guess is anyone's guess at this point. But yeah, there's a little bit going on. So But besides Destiny, what else have you been doing?
I was actually using some of my downtime, so like all the grinding I was doing in Destiny, there was coming to a point where I was like, oh my god, this feels like work. So I just went and put it down, and I booted up City Skylines, which people may not know, but I actually recorded like several hours of episodes of me playing City Skylines on my YouTube channel back in the day when I was like, I'm going to be a YouTuber. And no, I'm not going to be a YouTuber. But I've put a lot of time into City Skylines. I just wanted to play something really chill and relax. And I grabbed all the most recent DLC for it. I haven't actually gotten far enough into it yet to start playing with that stuff. But man, you'll probably hear about me playing that, you know, next week when we get to next week's episode, because I've put in a couple of hours this week so far. But it's just such a relaxed, fun game to play. Like, I can just play it and watch a movie or something in the background or listen to a podcast in the background. It's really good.
Totally, yeah. It is entirely my wheelhouse, that kind of game, and I haven't touched it yet, surprisingly. So,
It's so good. Like, as far as city builders go, it is the best one that has ever been made, in my opinion.
Yeah. Very cool. Nice. Are you playing with any natural disasters sort of on or anything like that? Any sort of volcanoes erupting or aliens landing or acid rainstorms or anything like that? Or does that not exist?
I've got it activated, so it can happen, but I don't go and typically trash my cities. I like building stuff. But I also like the challenge of, hey, something just happened, and that makes it worthwhile actually building all these emergency buildings and everything you have. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you do actually need an expansion to get those unlocked, or some of them unlocked. I can't remember. Right.
I mean, this is my SimCity brain entirely talking. Like, I wasn't sure if that thing even existed in City Skylines. I kind of assumed it did. So
it does. Yeah, absolutely does. And they can be pretty brutal. Like, the game has some really interesting mechanics. You can, before there were natural disasters in the game, I might be wrong. They may have been there from the very get-go, but it was entirely possible for you to cause natural disasters just because you were an idiot about how you were building stuff. Because from day one, it was possible to build dam. And the water level will actually pay attention if there's a dam in the way. And so you can end out in a situation where you've put a dam in this flowing river, and now the water level started building up because there's actually physics to the water, and you've just gone and flooded your entire city. So stuff like that is absolutely possible to be done. It makes it really, really risky when you actually start using some new cool little tools like building stuff along the waterfront. And if you build stuff in just the wrong way, you end out with flooded houses, and yeah, not good.
Yeah. Well, speaking of all things water and risky, how's that risk of rain stuff going, Adrian? You planning a bit more of that this week?
I have. I mean, to be honest, between what I did last week and this week, I've just been playing it now to enjoy it. When I first started playing it, I was, on the track to unlocking as much of the game as possible. I'm at the point now where I only have maybe half a dozen achievements left out of maybe 30 or 40 to unlock remaining items, and they're mostly things like, loop through the levels 20 times and, stuff like that, the kind of long-term things. So I'm mostly done with the game in regards to progress, but I do find myself enjoying it to kind of chill out. I normally put King of the Hill on one of my monitors. I'm slowly working through King of the Hill, and Risk of Rain on the other, and I'll just play for maybe an hour and a half and see how I do, and kind of enjoy the mechanics of the game. So that's it really. I'm kind of interested to see how updates roll out, because I haven't really played an early access game much before, especially this early on. So I'm curious to see how the updates change the game, And, maybe I'll log back on and something will be completely different, or something will be reset, or the difficulty may have changed, or there'll be a new character. So I'm kind of excited for that because the game is certainly playable as it is. So I'm keen to see what the updates do to it. And aside from Risk of Rain, I've just been playing more Hearthstone. Christian has certainly managed to get those hooks back into me.
I'm trying to prevent you from burning out at the moment.
Yes, I have a history of burning out on games. I think Luke knows this as well from
just games.
That's right, yeah. Over the many years Luke has known me, it tends to be my personality, one of my personality flaws. I tend to vampire something until it's no longer satisfying me and then move on. But I'm hoping with Hearthstone that won't happen, but we'll see. My track record isn't great.
It's all swings and roundabouts.
You need to get Hearthstone to the same spot it is for me, where it's like a background game that you kind of play between other things.
Yeah, I mean, that probably would be the case if I was playing anything else. One thing I have been eyeing off this week, I haven't played it yet, but maybe you'll see me play it in the next couple of weeks, is it's only on the Switch, it's only on the Nintendo Store. It's SteamWorld Quest, I think it's called.
I've heard great things about this. Yeah,
I've been curious about that.
I really want to play that because I've played all the other SteamWorld, that's a bold statement. I've played quite a few of the other SteamWorld games. I've played SteamWorld.
3 others, right?
Yeah, I've played Dig 2, and Heist, and I really enjoyed Heist, actually, because that's kind of like XCOM with steampunk robots in space, so that's really cool. But I'm really keen to play Quest. I think it looks really cool. I really like the character designs, so I imagine sometime in the next couple of weeks I might pick that up and give that a go.
It's supposed to be like that card game that we played for Party Game like a little while back, that, what was it, the tower-based card game? Oh, goddamn, what was the name? It's escaping my brain. It was huge last year.
The roguelite that was card-based. I remember you guys talking about it.
Did you play Slay the Spire?
Yes, that's it.
That's the one.
Yeah, not Tower Spire.
Okay. Yeah, I love Slay the Spire. Yeah, it's great.
I think this, from what I can tell, this is like a kind of like a JRPG kind of vibe, but the combat system is card-based, so I think it's randomly generated, and you build a deck to dictate what combat attacks you use. So
I've heard it can get quite grindy, that like the combat takes too long.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Oh, we'll see how we go. Like I say, I'm not even playing it yet, so we'll find out. We'll find out in the future.
Yeah. Isn't it funny at the moment how all of us seem to have retreated into this like comfort game zone just for this month?
Yeah. I imagine Warframe will get its hooks back into me because they've just released not new content, but they've unvaulted previously unavailable content. Yeah. So I'll probably get back into that this week as well.
I think it's pretty safe to say that's a comfort zone game to an extent for you at the moment, though, as well. Anyway, so
yeah, I'd say Warframe is my Hearthstone.
Yeah, that's probably a good comparison.
They need to add Hearthstone into Warframe so you can like your Warframes can play it with each other.
Yeah,
oh, God.
That way I can play both games at once.
Call it Tenno Stone.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that'd solve your problem at the moment, though, Christian, because you sent us an impassioned message during the week sort of saying, guys, help. Nothing else I can think of is as good as Sekiros.
That's exactly right. I'm still in like, I feel like I've like, I don't know, broken up with somebody and I'm waiting for my rebound.
What's happened is you've slept with like a porn star and now like nothing else compares.
Nothing else compares, yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know. I'm seriously considering picking it up on PC and then streaming the whole game. I'm just waiting for a sale. Even if it was like $10 off, I reckon I could justify it psychologically. But it's like $90 at the moment. I just can't do it. But
yeah, wow.
Did you see, I saw today there was an article about a mod that someone had put together to make a Sekiro Shrek mod?
Yes, I saw that. It's brilliant. Yeah, it replaces one of like the ogre monsters with Shrek. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So if you do that, and if you do the whole stream thing, I challenge you to do it with that. That would be hilarious. It would be awesome.
I totally would.
Yep. Nice. Well, in the meantime, I've been putting a ton of work in this week on my YouTube stuff, which is the Minecraft Sky Factory 4 series that I've been working on. So I just posted the 5th episode today, I think, and I've got the 6th one coming out tomorrow before I drop off onto a plane to have a quick weekend away. But that's been a bunch of fun. Like, I've actually been... it's kind of... I have done the playthrough on Sky Factory 4 to complete what the first big sort of chain of advancements before. But compared to what it took me the first time, which was probably about a good 5-6 hours of play, this time, because I'm refining them down into effectively like half-hour episodes, I've smashed it out so much faster, and I've really sort of got the technique down pat now, so that's been great. And and a few sort of quicker ways to achieve some of those things, but still really enjoying Minecraft. It's Minecraft's 10th anniversary actually this year. I just discovered sort of this week, so that's kind of cool. That game's been around for a long time and still awesome, and I'm still enjoying the hell out of it. But in probably no surprise to you guys, given the sorts of stuff that I've been playing over the last couple of months, I got sucked back into Stardew Valley in a big way this week. Oh. So a bunch of our friends actually started just playing it out of the blue on Switch, and starting some of the multiplayer games. I think it has something to do with the fact that Stardew Valley has put out some news recently saying that they've got like a big multiplayer update coming to the game shortly, where currently if you play a multiplayer game of Stardew Valley, one person sort of hosts the game and owns the farm essentially, and then anyone else that plays with them kind of drops into their farm and helps as part of the collaborative effort to build up all their stuff and improve their farm and generate income and that kind of thing. But what they're doing with this multiplayer update is they're actually going to allow players who drop into the farm to sort of build their own houses and kind of split off the finances so that it becomes like their own sort of instance within that game, if you like. People can kind of compete with each other and grow the best farms and generate the most income and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's kind of cool that you'll have the option. And apparently existing games that have started will allow people to actually, as a group, visit the bank, and the bank will actually divvy up all the funds and then sort of separate them from that point onwards. So it's amazing how much thought has been put into this game. It's like, when you're talking, Matt, about City Skylines kind of being like the gold standard for city builders, I would almost consider Stardew the gold standard for farm sims. I think it's pretty much up there. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think there's a lot of nostalgia involved in like Harvest Moon and everything like that, but Stardew does just do so much that those old games couldn't even imagine doing now.
Yeah, it's great. I've despite the fact that everyone's been playing it on Switch, I did actually pick it up on Switch for my two sons, and my eldest has been enjoying it. He's been playing a bunch, and he thinks it's great. But I jumped back into PC version just because I tend to spend more of my time sort of sitting in front of the PC. And they've added a whole bunch of different challenge maps now. So instead of actually running your farm on like a fairly open sort of grassy sort of plain area, which gives you maximum building space, now you can actually like build a farm inside like a hillside with lots of sort of rocky ravines and sort of winding trails. There's like a river land map, so you've got sort of water that cuts through your farm. So you've got the disadvantage of your space kind of being a bit interrupted, but you've got the advantage of extra fishing spots and things, which is cool. There's like a dense forest one, so you've got a huge amount more tree resources, but again, you have to actually sort of rip through it all to clear the space. So it's a lot more work. But yeah, it's cool. The game is still the same as I remember from when I played it a couple of years ago, but they've definitely sort of polished it a bit more, and it's as good as ever. So I'm having awesome fun playing it for at least the next week until I have a certain rage-filled obsession coming up real soon. So yeah, that's going to be good. But yeah, that's pretty much it for games played this week. I think we can move on to some news.
Now it's time to hear some gaming news. Time for some gaming news.
Yes, so lots and lots and lots of news this week. I'll start us off with a couple of things. I wanted to talk about some news coming out of Platinum Games this week, which is probably my favorite studio. So there was an interview with Video Games Chronicle where Platinum head Atsushi Inaba was talking about how they're going to start self-publishing games. So usually Platinum have been like guns for hire, where they have done contracts with Nintendo or Microsoft with the failed Scalebound project or Activision, and they kind of are usually working to other people's sort of plans. But now they're going to start self-publishing, and they've specifically said, so they have a bit more control over the kind of games they can make. And in the past, they've wanted to make sequels to some of their games like Bayonetta, but it's been difficult to acquire the rights or have the freedoms. Because even when they make the game, the publisher will often retain the actual IP. So they've obviously had a few successes under their belt recently with things like Nier Automata. So they must be feeling pretty confident in doing some self-publishing. And they've in the same interview, they mentioned they're working on 2 unannounced titles. And one of them, there's a quote from Inaba here who says, "We're in the middle of designing something that has never been done before. I know a lot of people say that, but the game we're working on truly is unlike anything else. This is something that has never been designed before. So from a game design perspective, we're very excited right now," which is a huge claim. it makes it sound like they have stumbled across some like type of game that's never been done before, and they're confident about it. So, traditionally they've just made character action games. I think an Endless Sea was their only exception, but yeah, so that's going to be weird and kind of exciting to find out what that project is.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with that one that they spoiled. Spoiled, I should say. Goddamn spoilers! That they revealed a short time ago on I think it was one of the Nintendo Directs. Was the sort of Tokyo Police Force sort of bubblegum crisis style one? Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
No, they've said that it's 2 unannounced games. So because they've got that Astral Chain and they've got Babylon's Fall and they've got Bayonetta 3 in production, but they seem to have 2 other unannounced games. So
Bayonetta must be a fair way along by now. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm almost worried about Bayonetta because we haven't heard anything about it in a long time.
Yeah. Coming out to that time of year, though, where Nintendo might reveal some of the bigger things that they've had bubbling in the background. So, they still tend to hold a few of their big cards for E3, despite the fact that they're not an E3-centric kind of, publisher. So, yeah.
I think Bayo 3 was originally announced at one of the VGAs, like two years ago, VGAs, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So, yeah, maybe VGAs this year or E3. We'll see.
Absolutely.
Another game that I was worried about, but am not worried about anymore, is Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. So this is the Koji Igarashi Castlevania-esque platformer. So he's the original creator of Castlevania. This was a Kickstarter from a bunch of years ago. And it had been like demoing it at events, and they'd put out like some preview material. And there was some gnashing of the teeth at the art style, and there were some performance issues in the demo units. But just recently, they put out a new trailer, and it was super like cleverly structured, where it starts off with footage of the old game, and then the screen just starts filling up with like negative comments people had said about the art style, like YouTube comments and tweets and everything, doing all over the screen. And then it cuts to like Koji Igarashi like sitting in like a mansion with a glass of wine. He just like throws the wine on the floor and says, "I'll prove them all wrong." And then it like cuts into like new revamped footage of the game, and it has like a brand new art style, and it looks a lot better, and it seems to be performing a lot better. And they accompanied that with a launch date of June 18th, which is pretty soon, just over a month away. So brand new look, brand new release date, and confident Igarashi. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for that one.
They did the opposite of Mighty Number 9.
Yeah,
they did do the opposite of Mighty Number 9. Yeah, yeah.
It was the most Japanese trailer I've seen in a long time. Just the whole throwing the glass of wine on the ground sort of thing. That was hilarious. Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Yeah,
he's a real character.
I didn't have a problem with the previous art style. I really didn't. I thought it was fine.
I thought it looked fine, but it's a bit kind of muddy. Like I like the colors are all kind of bit pooey colors, and the
technical term.
Yeah, I don't know. Just kind of like the whole game seemed to have this kind of like fart gas veneer over it.
Wow.
But now it looks kind of vibrant and clearer. Like I think that the assets seem more distinct from each other, so it's easier to kind of track. And I don't know. I think it looks a lot nicer.
Less farty assets. Got it.
Yep.
Yeah, not as much fart gas.
That's hilarious.
And speaking of fart gas, Randy Pitchford.
Fuck, man, could not have organised a better segue for that one. Holy shit.
So he's been in the news again the last week or so, and when Randy's in the news, it's never good news. So
for people who haven't been following along this train wreck of 2019's Randy Pitchford, who the heck is Randy Pitchford?
So Randy Pitchford is the CEO of Gearbox, who are a subsidiary of 2K Games, and they make Borderlands and that's basically it. They have made Aliens Colonial Marines, which was a disaster, and they shut out Duke Nukem Forever, which was awful, and Battleborn, which died. So basically they are a Borderlands studio is their major really success. And Randy he's always been a real character and a bit of a weird guy. He's gotten into hot water before, but just recently he was on stage talking about Borderlands 3 and said that there's going to be no microtransactions in the game. And then he got called out a little while later because there are indeed, you can pay for skins and cosmetics in the game, which making an argument that they're not microtransactions, I think is a bit stupid because they just basically flat out are. I think what Randy said he meant is that there are no like premium currencies in the game or loot boxes, but they're just one type of microtransaction. Like cosmetics are still microtransactions. So
Yeah, I mean, cosmetics were the original microtransaction.
Yeah,
I mean,
horse armor.
fucking horse armor. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then he couldn't leave well enough alone, and Game Informer did an article calling him out, and Randy like tweeted directly underneath the article, basically saying like, "Why are you guys picking on me?" Saying his quote was, "Why you guys would fuck me on this is beyond me. Thanks a lot." And it's like, come on, guys, shitty clickbait headline.
Yeah.
And
this is not in a private email. This is across Twitter for all the world to see. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a guy that just can't take criticism. He went on like a bit of a tirade saying like, I've been working my ass off for years and all people do is call me a liar and nobody appreciates me and wah, wah, wah. But, you know, his track record is not good. There's been all sorts of shit going on with Randy. You know, he defrauded Sega of millions over Aliens Colonial Marines, allegedly. Yeah. They bullshotted the heck out of that game and deceived consumers. They shut out Duke Nukem Forever. Even freaking Borderlands, the art style of Borderlands is allegedly completely ripped off. There was an animated short video that was done that it looks just like Borderlands, and they actually brought the artist in, the creator of that video, to work on a game, and then stopped working with that artist, and then shortly afterwards replaced the previous art style of Borderlands with the current one, the cel-shaded look. There's the original trailer for Borderlands. If you go back and watch it, it looks like a kind of realistic 3D game. And then they basically just ripped this artist off, in my opinion. And then there've been other things they've also ripped off other artists for posters. There was a Star Wars poster that they ripped off for Borderlands, and it's just not good. And then there was, even after that, the Claptrap voice actor David Eddings, who wasn't just a voice actor, he also was a high up at Gearbox when he was doing the work.
I got super confused when I saw this name because it didn't click that it wasn't David Lee Eddings, the author of the Bulgaria series of books. I was like, oh no, this is a different guy. So this David Eddings has come out saying that he is refusing to reprise his role because he is owed royalties from previous games that he did that they, aren't offering him. They basically wanted him to work for free. They wanted him, because at the time he did Claptrap as part of his other duties. He didn't get paid any additional sum to play Claptrap. He was just on his normal salary for, I don't know exactly what his job was. But now they still wanted him to be Claptrap, but they didn't want to pay him. And also he said that he's accusing Randy Pitchford of flat out assaulting him, and he wants an apology and his missing royalties. And then he said he'd maybe think about playing Claptrap again. But yeah, he's straight up accusing Randy Pitchford of assault, which is, not good, but it kind of paints a hilarious picture of Randy as a terrible person. Yeah.
There's many issues with their voice actors. Like, that's not the first time we've heard one of the voice actors from previous Borderlands game being like, I never got invited back, or, I was getting fucked over.
Yeah.
Well, the other one was Troy Baker, who was sort of saying that he wasn't asked to reprise the voice of Reese from Tales from the Borderlands with Borderlands 3, because that character is definitely appearing in there. They've gotten someone else to do the voice acting. And, I mean, to be fair, the new voice actor they've got who is doing the voice for Reese, I can't actually tell a huge difference between the two, which is odd because Troy Baker's such a prolific voice actor in the industry. But it's not the substance of the matter. It's the back and forth between Randy that becomes the headline. The microtransaction thing, I think most people don't care. Like, they're like, okay, cool, you have paid for cosmetics in this game. In this day and age, that's a fairly standard thing, as long as you don't, have egregious levels of that, like, Star Wars Battlefront 2 stuff. People will probably get over it. But the way that it was communicated and the fucking tirade that followed is what has drawn the headlines, and that's all the source of all of the mess. So
yeah, if he'd said like, oops, like, sorry guys, I misspoke. What I was trying to say was this. Instead he got super defensive about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say though that Borderlands is one of those examples where the most recent version having all its cosmetics, or some of its cosmetics, being a microtransaction system, I could see a lot of people actually being really annoyed about that, because nowhere in past Borderlands games has that been a thing. Like,
wasn't it? I thought you could buy skins. Yeah.
Yeah, there were DLC skins in Borderlands 2.
Yeah.
DLC skins or microtransaction skins?
Well,
same
the
thing,
transactions
like,
were so small, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
$3-4 skins or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually,
okay, fair enough.
Adrian,
I
I've
don't
got
remember that.
I've got a question for Adrian, just sort of off the back of the thing we were talking about. I think it might have been last week on the shift keys and how they work and that kind of thing. So you know how shift keys are often sort of given out via social media from Gearbox or Randy himself or at events and things like that, and you kind of put those keys in and you open up the chest with all the guns and stuff. Have they ever done a thing where you can actually purchase shift keys as a microtransaction? Has that ever been possible?
I have no idea.
I don't think so.
No, yeah. I wouldn't know. My understanding is that they're basically just something that's tweeted out every now and then. And, you know, if you're following their Twitter, then you can use the shift key or they're given away at events. But yeah, I think the point of them is that you can't buy them.
Okay, that's good.
I think they were like exclusively promotional keys.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if that wasn't the case, then that is effectively a loot box. You may be buying a key, but you're still buying the box.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I mean, those if it was a microtransaction, it's a really shit one because those guns never lasted very long.
Yeah, it's fair.
So
Interesting.
Here's a piece of trivia though about the Borderlands thing. So you were talking about the art style. I've actually heard stuff at GDC about how exactly the art style came to be. I don't know about the theft of the art style, but I know that apparently the higher ups were not aware that the art style changed from that hyper realistic one to the cel shaded one until days before the game was going to be released, because a whole bunch of artists were really unhappy with their really bad art style in terms of like the hyper realistic stuff, and just, you know, they weren't happy with it. So they went through and remade all the assets in the game and applied it before higher ups could make any decisions about taking that out before the game was released. And it was basically too late to change any of that. I can't remember if it was the art director that didn't know or if it was the big producers at the studio that didn't know, but basically a whole bunch of artists crunched in secret to make that happen.
Wow.
That's
there's definitely the accusation of sort of artistic theft behind that as well. Out of curiosity, which GDC year was that you heard?
Oh, God, that would have been like maybe 2013 or 2015.
Oh, okay, right. I was wondering, because if it was 2017, that's the GDC that David Edding said he was assaulted at. It was during GDC 2017 that he says that he was assaulted in the lobby of the Marriott Marquis. So I've been around to witness that.
Yep.
But well, moving on to some other shitty game developer news. So Riot Games had its walkout. Over 150 people actually walked out of the studio to protest the forced arbitration of past, current, and future Riot employees. So basically, like, if there's any sort of disagreement about wages, or if there's any sort of like accusation of sexual harassment in the studio or that sort of thing, Riot employees are not allowed by contract to actually take the company to court over it. They have to they get forced into arbitration. They basically have to do all that stuff behind the scenes, and they essentially have no legal rights while working for Riot if Riot decides that this is something that should have been arbitrated. But they're not only protesting that, but just shitty studio culture, because apparently it's very much kind of macho man kind of culture inside the studio with a lot of sexual harassment that happens. Some of the stories that I was reading on Twitter, which I won't repeat, but there's some pretty nasty stuff that a whole bunch of people were talking about. And it's not just the women at the studio either that have had to deal with this. It's also a whole bunch of men, you know, gay people, lesbian people, like just it's really, really toxic sounding shit that they've been having to deal with. And just, you know, terrible studio culture in general. Yeah, so it's interesting. I'd suggest if you're actually interested in hearing more about it, you can have a look at Twitter and actually have a read through, I think it's the Riot Walkout hashtag. And there's some interesting stuff in there that kind of gives a behind-the-scenes peek into what exactly is going on at Riot Games.
Yeah. It's kind of a momentous occasion that this has finally happened to this level, though, isn't it? It's
Absolutely. Like, I had pointed out on Twitter that, like, in a climate where a whole bunch of Blizzard and Activision employees got laid off despite the company making a shit ton of money, all these Riot employees walking out when they could be so easily fired for no reason whatsoever is like, that takes massive guts. Like, and it is kind of a sign, I think, of that whole unionization effort really gaining momentum, that a studio with all these employees at the studio are actually standing up and saying, no, this is bullshit and we won't have it. So it was like a 2-hour long protest, apparently.
Oh, good on him.
Yeah. And more happy news. So the Fate and the Furious director, who is named F. Gary Gray. I had to take my time saying that because I'm going to say F. Gary or F. Gray. But yeah, so he's actually going to be producing a Saints Row movie, or developing a Saints Row movie, which I'm super excited about. I fucking love Saints Row. And it actually seems like a good combination versus, one of the Fast and the Furious guys working on Sonic cough.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like actually a really, really good combination. If they can nail the sort of Saints Row comedy and over the topness, like, I think that would be a really, really funny combination. That seems like a good pairing to me.
I think that if there was ever going to be someone who was going to direct either a GTA movie or a Saints Row film, it should be one of the really good Fast and Furious directors. And especially, Fate of the Furious, if you're a fan of the Fast and Furious movies, that movie's pretty fucking good, I just got to say. It's a wild ride. And I think the only one that potentially could top that in terms of how awesome it looks is maybe that new Hobbs and Shaw film that's coming out, which looks really good too.
Oh, God, that looks good.
I'm all down for that, yeah. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
But Saints Row, which story would they do? I mean, that's because Saints Row 1 was kind of just like a bit of a GTA parody as a whole. I mean, not that GTA itself isn't a parody of real stuff to begin with, but I mean, Saints Row is a thing kind of only picked up around 2, 3, and 4. So does anyone who actually knows stuff about Saints Row have a guess as to where they might place the adaptation? Or
I think that they wouldn't start off with Saints Row 1 because that would be pretty mundane. They're going to go for the wackiness, which kind of kicks in, Saints Row 2 and 3.
I remember 3 being the big breakout one with the wackiness.
Yeah. That was the one with the dildo bats and stuff and the dubstep gun and things like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would totally see them like following a gang leader and having just some crazy shit happen to him. Like, quite honestly, having it be a story about, the gang leader of this gang called Saints Row, who are all across this city being thrust into a position where he's now the president of the United States and having to deal with an alien invasion would be fucking hilarious in a cinema. Like, that would be so funny. But yeah, I think that would probably be the maybe the best story to kind of cover, because in terms of the stories for the other ones, there's not a whole lot there that's particularly interesting. But who knows? Like, Saints Row, they could literally just go and make something completely new. I actually kind of expect them to do more of that than, we're going to remake a game story.
Yeah. I mean, not being a slave to the source material in this case might actually be a benefit for that particular franchise. So, yeah, I totally
definitely.
get it. But I mean, speaking of being a slave to the source material, some interesting developments during the week after we spoke about the Sonic movie reactions on the last episode. So as it turns out, we weren't the only ones who thought that it looked like a fucking trash fire. A large part of the internet seemed to agree as well. And the director of the movie, Jeff Fowler, actually responded directly to all of the criticism via Twitter. And he posted a message that said, "The message is loud and clear. You aren't happy with the design and you want changes. It's going to happen. Everyone at Paramount and Sega are fully committed to making this character the best he can be." So I think, personally, that this is pretty wild to say that they're actually going to change the character design to respond to the sort of negative feedback that's been coming out. What does that actually mean? Like, if they change the character design, like especially visually, that's going to have a pretty massive knock-on effect to all of the people who are doing post-production on the visual assets for that film at the moment, not to mention any marketing material they've sent out, merchandising. Like, we're getting to the point now where trailers are dropping for this film. It's pretty far along in production, so how many people are going to be crunching like motherfuckers to actually make those changes before the thing releases?
Not my problem.
Is it going to
quite honestly, like, it is the first game movie that will actually involve crunch in it. So, I mean, that just seems to make it more realistic.
Is it not a possibility? I know this is kind of conspiracy theorist, but is it not a possibility that they've always had like a backup design ready to go? Like, would they not have anticipated this?
Well, are you saying
I think
they
that's part of
deliberately,
publicity?
they shot themselves in the foot by putting a shit design out to generate a huge amount of publicity, and they've actually got like a good design waiting in the wings?
Yeah, isn't that a reasonable thing to think?
I think that's crazy conspiracy thinking personally to suggest that they like there's far too much like money and stuff behind this and like I think it's reasonable to suggest that they have like a backup design waiting in the wings in case this was the response. But I don't think that they intended for the response to be this way. I think it's just super out of touch Hollywood people. They have no idea. Apparently there's in the background there's been lots of like bad blood between Sega and the movie studio with like Yuji Naka, the like Sonic creator, who's like fought hard for them to like redesign it previously, and they've refused to. And then after this tweet came out, Yuji Naka like put out a statement saying like thanking everybody for their criticism basically, and saying that he's happy to see that people love Sonic so much, and he's not part of the movie design. This is just Sonic is his baby, and he's happy to see it go this way.
And meanwhile, behind the scenes, he'll be fist pumping and going, "I fucking told you so, you fucks."
Yeah.
Like, quite honestly, given how animation works and how much effort goes into animating a thing, like, even if they did have that model, they would have to redo every single animation in the movie and then redo all the special effects over that in the movie. Like, it is a huge undertaking. So when this came out, like, visual effects people are some of the most underpaid people in the whole filmmaking process, and now they're having to do all this shit again. That's fucked up. That's massively fucked up.
Yeah,
I kind of echo Christian's thoughts on that, where I was like, I don't care.
I kind of like where you were going with that, though, Adrian. Like, that conspiracy theory. I mean, how hilarious would it be if that was actually what they did? Like, they thought, oh, we'll just generate a whole bunch of publicity, no news is bad news, right? And then what would have happened if the general public turned around and said, hey, we actually love this, and then they're just like, oh, fuck.
Sonic the Hedgehog doesn't need to do this for publicity.
No, I
Sonic
agree.
the Hedgehog is already like big enough that if they put it out and people loved it, it would have exploded just as much. Like,
Yep,
yeah.
Tis true. Kind of hilarious and weird, though. But all those people
I'm actually a
doing
little
post-production.
disappointed.
You're disappointed that
wanted to
they
see
backed down? Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to see the horrible crack rat in motion.
I feel sorry for all the people working on the visual assets, but I guess now they got to go fast if they have to do anything. All right.
We're treading the same terrible jokes as last week. I'm not going to hear any more "gotta go fast" from you, Luke. That's it. I'm putting my foot down.
How about fast cars? Can we talk about fast cars for a minute? We'll talk about fast cars. All right. Well, there is a game about fast cars that is called Rocket League by the company Psyonix. And hey, guess what? They just got bought by Epic. So this is the next one in a line of big moves that Epic Games has been making. And they've come out and purchased Psyonix. And all of the predictable things have now happened. So all of the Rocket League fans around the world throwing their arms up in the air and with the outcry of "don't take our game off of Steam." So they haven't actually turned around and said whether they will be doing that yet. There's some very, very hazy language about what their intentions are with regards to games availability on Steam. But I think the sticking point with this particular game, despite the fact that Rocket League's about 4 years old now, is that it is a game that throughout its life has kind of been heralded as one of the big pushes for multi-platform compatibility and getting it across as many systems on as many devices as possible. And if it was to be the case where now we're going to see them lose the battle and have an exclusivity sort of deal of sorts with the store that they're based on, then that's going to be kind of counterpoint to a lot of the image that they've built up over the last few years. So what are your thoughts on that one, guys, if it does actually come to pass?
My personal thinking is that it would be absolutely amazing if Epic bought this game to go and basically say, hey, Steam, let's do this as a cross-platform title so that all of the people on Epic's game store can have access to the Steam's friends list so that you can play together.
Oh, sneaky. I like where your head's at there. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because as far as I know, and I haven't actually ever played Rocket League, so I'm probably the worst person to even know the answer to this question. But I mean, unlike how Epic used to back before the Epic Store was really a thing, Psyonix doesn't have like a Psyonix account for Rocket League players, do they? Like, it's always been running through other services like Steam and things like that. So there's no sort of independent way for them to have all that player data, which they could then share to Epic Store and Steam at the same time, is there? That's not a thing.
Yeah, not as far as I'm aware.
I think there might be, maybe. I mean, because it's cross-platform play already, right?
Yeah, what would that run through? I actually have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I know that because it is cross-platform play already between PC and even PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo. I think they're all cross-platform with each other. That surely there's some sort of second layer there of login, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it seems like a big push that's part of this acquisition is that they really want to pump extra money into the sort of esports scene for Rocket League, which I mean that's taking a bit of the sting out of the arrangement. I think people who are keen and interested in that kind of thing see it as a net positive because they've had a fairly large sort of global esports scene to date already, and pumping that up and making it even bigger is probably a cool thing. So I don't know. It's going to be a wait and see thing. I think that Epic maybe want to look at some moves to not tarnish their public image as much at the moment, given what's happened recently. But who knows at this point? It's a very big question mark. So anyway.
So I just did a quick search, and from what I can tell, Rocket League does not have its own account system. But cross-platform play does not mean cross-platform accounts, right? So you might be able to progress on your Steam account, but then if you go and pick up the game on the PS4, you'd be working on it for a completely new account. You wouldn't be able to keep your progress. So I assume that it is cross-platform play, but not cross-platform in terms of like keeping your progress across all platforms.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Makes
interesting.
sense.
I don't play Rocket League, so I don't care. So anyway. All right, now moving on. Now, I want to just touch on a topic that we covered a little while ago when we had our episode on talking about sort of, what's the term that we used? Preservation, that's the word. Thank you. So game preservation. Now, Christian, you mentioned during that episode that one of the sources out there sort of attempting to do something along the lines of preservation was actually the World Video Game Hall of Fame. Which is an organization that's sort of been for some years actually seeking to add a number of memorable and maybe in some opinions not so memorable titles to like a long-running list of some of the most influential games in history. So they have just announced that they've added 4 new titles to their list for 2019. And I just wanted to throw those names out to you guys and see what you thought about the picks. So the first one that they announced was Microsoft Solitaire. So think about that.
Solitaire. How much can you improve Solitaire?
There's a funny kind of logic to that I can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but if you're going to do that, why not just put in any crappy game that was ever released on an early computer?
Like Minesweeper and things like that? Yeah.
Minesweeper,
plus,
Minesweeper deserves it.
The problem I have with that is that Solitaire's already a game. It's a card game.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So, like, what if you're gonna put like a virtual version of Solitaire into the Hall of Fame? Why not just make famous the original Solitaire because it's a card game? I don't know. I don't.
That little animation where when you win, all the cards go over the screen.
Oh, of course, that's right. We'll put the animation in the Hall of Fame, but not the game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, apparently, because it was a pack-in for Windows 3.0 back in the day, it became pretty ubiquitous around the world. Like they said, that there's, it has seen 35 billion games per year in over 200 markets. So I don't know. That's some pretty crazy numbers anyway. So, all right, other inductees, they've also inducted Super Mario Kart. Was it Super Mario Kart? I always thought it was just called Mario Kart.
It was 64.
Mario Kart 64? No,
yeah.
there was a Super Mario Kart first. Yeah, there definitely was on the SNES. Yeah,
definitely.
I'm saying it was, but I thought that they inducted Mario Kart 64.
I'm just checking my notes now. It seems to be just Super Mario Kart. I can go back and check that later, but
okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. They've also inducted Colossal Cave Adventure, which I can kind of understand because that was a precursor to big titles like the Myst games and the Zork series and old style MUDs. So that one was kind of famous, but again, it comes into that question about how influential a game was versus, whether it was just the first in a line of things that became sort of more notorious as time went on. So, that's an interesting one. But the final one is Mortal Kombat. The original OG Mortal Kombat has been inducted.
That deserves to be there, I reckon.
Yeah. I tend to agree, and I think I probably agree also for the fact that this game was largely responsible for the creation of, the ESRB as we know it today, and like a lot of the controversy at the time around sort of the real sort of video imagery used for the fatalities and the character animations and stuff like that. It was a pretty landmark game, so yeah.
It was Mortal Kombat and Night Trap were the two big big games that cause that.
Yeah, so for their notoriety, it probably makes a fair bit of sense. So.
Was Night Trap about like rappers in the evening?
No, it was about home invaders sneaking in and trying to steal women.
Oh, that's much worse.
Trying to steal everyone, to be fair.
Oh, God. All right, well, last one for tonight is just a little short one, but sort of in line with the whole Minecraft 10th anniversary. There was a really interesting tease that popped out this week, and it seems that Microsoft have got something interesting planned for Minecraft that's going to be coming up real soon. So they have a reveal planned for apparently the 17th of May. So in around a week, they're going to be showing off more about this, but it appears to be some sort of Minecraft AR game. So there's a little video that they put up on the Twitter and YouTube accounts for Microsoft. And during the video, there's a woman who sort of sits down on a park bench with a guy who's sort of, reading something next to her. And he gets up and he accidentally picks up the wrong mobile phone that's sitting next to him. And she realizes that he's left his phone behind and taken hers. And so she picks up his phone and takes a look at it. And then she's looking through it and actually seeing sort of, AR style Minecraft figures on the ground in front of her through the phone. And then sort of, shows them in the real world. It's kind of similar to the early Pokemon Go commercials that we saw. So, and then, she stands up and interacts with a couple of villagers and tries to find the guy to give his phone back. And it's just, this cute little sort of teaser that goes for maybe a minute or so. But I have to wonder, is Microsoft planning some sort of Pokemon Go style thing with Minecraft? That's an interesting one. What do you guys think? Do you think this is something that there's some sort of demand for or market for? Or what the heck could that game look like? I don't know. That's a weird one.
You know what I like the idea of is people building things virtually and then leaving them in a public space, and then someone else can come along and have a look at it.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so you can maybe at a park, you could use Minecraft assets to build like a fort, and then anyone could just rock up and it's there. Like your app would alert you that, there's a structure nearby, and you could go up to it and investigate it, and I don't know, then you could add some PvP elements to the game. It'd be quite cool, I reckon.
Yeah. Almost like you'd have to overlay a grid on everything sort of in the real world to kind of make that work. That'd be interesting. You could do it.
Just kind of float like they do in Pokemon Go. I don't think the AR technology is that much more advanced on our current sort of phones and stuff. I imagine that it would just be kind of floating as close as they can to the ground.
Yeah.
I look forward to playing it and every single landmark being a dick.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for a fairly weighty news section tonight. Now, we're just going to do a nice sort of fun short topic tonight, but one that's kind of timely given recent, especially movie events that have been happening and various pieces of entertainment throughout the year. So tonight, I just wanted to chat to you guys about some of the most epic gaming deaths that we've seen in the time that we've been playing video games. So the reason why this is relevant, of course, is because over the last couple of years, with some of the biggest entertainment franchises that we've seen in many, many years, whether it be Star Wars or Game of Thrones being a great contender, and just recently with some of the Marvel films that we've seen, and we're going to try and not mention movie spoilers tonight because it's about the video games, but suffice to say, there's been some pretty epic character deaths in a number of those things. And that's not a new thing. Like, there are video games out there, particularly heavy story ones, where there's been some really, really memorable final moments for big characters that have left lasting impressions on us. And I kind of just wanted to chat about some of the really cool ones and ones that are stuck in our minds as players. So this is going to be a bit of a roundtable discussion. I'd really like to sort of get your thoughts on ones that you have found that have particularly stood out over the years and maybe some of your personal favorites. So I don't know. I'm just going to throw it open. Who would like to start? What was an epic gaming death for you and why? And tell us a bit about it. So, and we should also preface this entire segment as a massive spoiler zone. So if you're listening to this show and you don't want to know about any of the games that we're about to talk about, because when it comes to main character deaths, we could be talking about some pretty sensitive story content. These might be new games, they might be old games, but you have been warned, spoilers will abound. If you can't deal with that, turn off now. Yeah.
And if you guys hear like a sudden noise of me throwing my headset off, it's because one of you mentions a game I don't want spoiled. So be prepared.
Entirely fair.
All right. I hadn't even thought of that. Spoiling games for each other. I hadn't considered the fallout there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll start off by the biggest spoiler. The biggest character death was Bethesda's character when they released Fallout 76. I think that's got to be the biggest death this in recent memory anyway.
The day when Hope died. Yep.
Genius.
Interesting. All right. Anyone on Fallout 76? Let's start with that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go then. So Red Dead Redemption 1, I'm going to spoil that if anyone cares.
No.
So yeah, at the end of Red Dead Redemption 1, John Marston, the main character, dies. And it is done in a pretty spectacular fashion where you're kind of holed up inside his home, and then a bunch of like police officers and lawmen come around, and I think you're in his barn, and then it's basically a moment where you know that certain death is coming, and there's basically no chance of escape. And then in a final act of defiance, you kind of burst out of the barn doors, and then it switches to the slow motion hip shooting that the game has, where you can like line up a bunch of shots before time speeds back up and all the bullets start flying. And there's maybe 30 lawmen like all arranged in front of you in a big semicircle, and you can maybe line up 5-6 of them before time snaps back to reality, and then you pop off a flurry of shots, and then you get riddled with bullets, and John Marston falls to the ground dead. But that moment of sort of trying to do your best as a gunslinger and take down as many of them with you is a really like dramatic and awesome moment. And then the game goes one step further by actually placing you in the shoes of Marston's son for the kind of epilogue of the game, and kind of going back, getting some final revenge for him. But yeah, that moment's really cool.
That's a good standout one. It sounds like it recreates a really good sense of hopelessness, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely. You're like, you know that you're going to die. It's just you put up one little last bit of resistance, but that you know that it's over. It's very cowboy thing. Like, I think in all good cowboy stories, the main character dies, really.
Yeah. They're always kind of tragic.
Yeah.
No.
I'm going to bring up one that only just came to mind. I didn't even actually have it on my list. But I'm going to say Soap from Modern Warfare 2 dying was actually really interesting, because this is a player character that you were actually playing as in Modern Warfare 1. So you've developed a connection to this character in a big way. To see them die in Modern Warfare 2 is really like holy shit, they just did that. I'm not returning to that character again.
I remember, that was a big deal at the time. I remember. I didn't play the games, but I remember hearing about how significant that was for people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anything about
Warfare's-
this character, so like, who the heck is this person?
So Modern Warfare 1, you play as Soap McTavish. So he is the player character in Modern Warfare 1. So there's not much character to him. But in Modern Warfare 2, you're playing a different character, and you rescue Soap only for him to die shortly after, if I recall correctly. But like Modern Warfare's also made a habit of actually killing the player character while you're being the player character. Like Modern Warfare 1, you jumping into the shoes of that American soldier while you're in the Middle East, and then the Middle East getting bombed, and you seeing that character die. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, like I haven't played a whole bunch of the Call of Duty games, so I mean, Modern Warfare's like way out of my sort of ballpark. So, are they story based enough to actually care about some of those characters? Like, have they had enough opportunity to build them up? Is that something that you are led to care about, or is this kind of just the way that they executed it that is the thing that really matters?
It's more the execution, I personally think. Like, I don't think any of the characters are particularly like amazing. Like Soap does develop much more of a personality. I forget the name of the old guy that
Price?
Price. Yeah, Price is a really good character. Like, Price is a standout. And I don't recall him dying, but I recall him coming very, very close to it on several occasions.
Yeah, I feel like the first 3 Modern Warfare games and maybe Black Ops 1 did have like characters that people cared about. And I haven't played any of them, but I do know some of those characters just through osmosis. And I think it's worn off now. There's just been so many random protagonists, nobody cares anymore.
Nobody gives a shit.
Back for the first couple, yeah.
Back before they started releasing one every single year kind of thing. So
basically, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to give you guys warning now, because I'm going to throw one in that maybe 1 or 2 of you may care about. So I'm about to spoil the shit out of Wolfenstein: The New Colossus. So if you care about that,
go ahead.
Final warning. All right. So one of the most epic character deaths that I can remember in recent history was actually in Wolfenstein: The New Colossus, which is the second of the rebooted sort of big Wolfenstein franchise games. And it is actually of the title character, BJ Blazkowicz. He actually dies partway through the game. You may not have realized this. What they actually do is throughout the ending of the first game, BJ basically his body is ravaged. Like he's caught in this giant explosion after sort of being tortured and sort of injured repeatedly throughout the first game, and his body's sort of not in a good state. So when you start off the second game, like you're literally for the first level of the game in a wheelchair. You're fighting in a wheelchair, like wheeling around, like just murdering Nazis left, right, and center with the guns that you can pick up as you wheel around. And you're in a submarine of all things, which makes it pretty hard to get around. Now, you eventually do manage to get out of the chair because you have like a special sort of body armor that sort of gives you, it's a bit of like a prosthesis and helps you walk around and that kind of thing. But later during the game, BJ gets captured by the Nazis. He actually gets captured by one of the lead villains. And then after a real sort of back and forth across a couple of missions where you're in a bit of a dream state and things are happening that you're not quite sure are happening and you're wondering whether you're dreaming it or not, BJ actually gets caught and then executed in front of the entire Third Reich in, I think, does it happen in? No, it happens in America. And like he gets pulled up on stage and decapitated in front of the crowd. And you're thinking,
it's very Ned Stark. It's
super Ned Stark. Like, and you're wondering, they've just decapitated.
Wait, what happens to Ned Stark?
You're wondering what the hell is going on here. They've just cut the main character's head off. Is this still part of the dream sequence, which I was literally just doing the last level before this? Turns out, no, it wasn't. This actually did happen for real. But then what happens immediately afterwards is so fucking batshit insane that it makes Wolfenstein for me. This is the reason why I love this series so much. So the head actually gets dropped and it goes down this garbage chute. And as it turns out, members of the Resistance have actually had some backup plans, and they had this little drone that manages to snag his head before it drops into the incinerator. They fly it back off to the rebels' base, and using new technology that they've recently discovered, they actually graft his head onto like an empty body that was made for a super soldier, and basically wake him back up and allow him to actually fight again. It is the most crazy, batshit insane sequence I have ever seen in a video game. It basically resets his entire body. Like literally, it's a head graft onto a new body that puts him back in fit fighting shape after a little bit of a delay. But holy shit, if it wasn't amazing how they pulled it off. It was just an incredible
really
way
good
to do it. Yeah.
And they do like foreshadow it a little bit because you see them like working on that body through the game, like earlier on. It's like the Ubermensch kind of perfect soldier that I think one of the characters is like experimenting on, or they've got it in stasis or something. But that body is there beforehand, and you just never really pay attention to it. So yeah, it doesn't kind of completely come out of nowhere, which is cool.
Yeah, but absolutely. I mean, despite the fact that you know this now, if you haven't played this game, play this game. The story is so insane; it's amazing. Like I cannot recommend it enough. So yeah, that's one for me. Anyone else got another one? Throw them all in. We got.
Yeah, I'm going to get in early before someone else claims it. So the one that immediately sprang to mind when I heard about this topic was Mass Effect 3. I think people know where I'm going. Mass Effect 3, spoilers for our listeners, is Mordin Solus's death.
Oh, yeah.
Mordin is the best character in Mass Effect, flat out. Better than any other character in the entire game. And I will fight you if you disagree with me.
Jam will fight
you.
He
is better than everyone except Garrus.
I was just about to say he's better than Garrus. I knew you would jump in there.
Why couldn't Garrus be gay? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you romance Mordin? That's the real tragedy of Mass Effect.
Why couldn't Garrus
he wasn't a romance
Mordin?
option. Yeah. But I mean, I won't spoil why he's. Oh, maybe I should. Should I talk about why he's good?
Yeah, go ahead.
Or will that spoil this? Mordin's character in the game, Mordin is an alien scientist who kind of looks like a bit like. He's kind of amphibious, kind of frog or lizard-like, big eyes. Kind of looks like a classic grey alien mixed with a frog or something to that effect. But in the I might be remembering this wrong, so feel free to chime in, guys, correct me. But in the original Mass Effect 2, you recruit Mordin into your party, and Mordin is like a genius scientist character who has been working on, or has already worked on, this thing called the genophage, which is a space virus that basically makes an entire other species of alien infertile, which is one of the other major characters in your party comes from that race called what were they called?
Krogans.
Yep. The Krogan. So Mordin's race is responsible for distributing this sort of sterilization across an entire other race because they were too aggressive and warlike. And so it gives him a really kind of grey character in certain areas about whether that was an ethical thing to do or not, because on one hand, you're sort of preventing mass war. On the other hand, you're literally dooming a race to, extinction, or at least, a slow decline. And all through Mass Effect 2, you're presented with, moral choices involving Mordin and his work. And his character arc sort of develops over the course of Mass Effect 2, so, dozens of hours of gameplay. In Mass Effect 3, he returns as a character, and in Mass Effect 3, events come to a head, and one of Mordin's final acts before he dies is to reverse his work on the Genophage, which is quite an emotional sort of crescendo to his arc.
Oh, yeah.
And it finishes with him making the ultimate sacrifice in sacrificing his own life to ensure that his vaccine or his cure to the Genophage is distributed, and through his sacrifice basically saves an entire alien species. So, that all is just a very quick summary of what makes his character so great and his death so meaningful. And and it's one of the few character deaths where I've really kind of remembered it, years later. And I mean, I love Mordin for many different reasons. One of the most being that he's a Pirate of Penzance fan and sings sings his own version of Modern Major General, which I know all the words to. So I do love him for that reason alone, let alone all the other stuff.
Why am I not surprised you know all the words?
Yeah. But yeah, big fan of Mordin. Christian was very nice one year and got me a nice little painted portrait of Mordin that I put on display, as well as a Mordin action figure that I've got.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm quite a fan of him.
Yeah. He's cool.
Well, I will jump in with one. I'm going to mention Destiny 2. And every single time I die to a Cabal phalanx in that fucking game.
Not bitter much
hey,
at all.
Look. There's a guy with a shield. He just hit me. I'm flying at 100 kilometers an hour through the air, and now I've hit a wall and just crumpled. And every single bone in my body's broken. No, actually, I'm not going to mention that one. Cade 6 dying in Destiny 2 was really, really impactful. Like, they had made that clear that was going to happen before the expansion even came out. So this was the Forsaken expansion. And Cade 6 was a beloved character. Like, easily of all the different Vanguard characters, like, everybody loved Cade 6. There was nobody that was like, man, I hate Cade 6. But he is such a key character to the Destiny universe that nobody expected that they would kill him off and keep him dead. But that's exactly what they did. And, like, his final moments, like, just being a total badass in fighting all these Scorn, and you're kind of just, like, stuck watching this cutscene while this is happening, and your character is, meanwhile, running through this prison trying to get to him, to help him out. You don't make it there in time, and Cade ends up getting put down. But his final words are so Cade, and it's just fucking great when, I forget the name of the asshole that shot him. That's much I care. But, the other guy's like, any last words? And Cade goes, how's your sister? And anybody that plays Destiny is like, oh man, that's a dick move, because this guy's sister is supposed to be dead.
Yeah.
She's not, of course.
Super not.
Yeah. But yeah, like, as final words for Cade goes, holy shit, like, put that on his tombstone, because that's fucking great. But yeah, like, it even actually has a really, really, like, moving follow-up quest where you go out and you find all these caches that Cade had left behind that have all these voice messages to the people that he thought could have killed him. And he acknowledges a whole bunch of characters in the universe that you're aware of, and some extended universe characters that are in the lore books, but we've not actually seen in game before. And it's all very sad. Like, he even actually acknowledges the player character as being a potential killer of him, and is all like, hey, if you did it, then good for you, kid, because you were going to one up me at one point. And then probably the saddest moment is turning all that stuff in to get his gun. Not the last word.
Ace of Spades.
Ace of Spades. Yeah. So you turn in the quest to get his gun, and you turn it into this robot character called Banshee. And Banshee has memory problems, and he's like, I'm not going to forget Cade. And when you turn it in, he actually gives you the gun and everything, and then goes quiet for a second and asks, have you seen Cade? And it's like, oh, fuck off, no.
Oh, man.
The whole quest line is just, it stretches out his death into several pangs of hurt, and it's fantastic. And whenever you end out using the Ace of Spades after that, like, it's so good. Like, it feels amazing because of the fact that it was tied to this beloved character. I don't think that Destiny's done with Cade yet, not by a long shot, but he's dead right now.
Yeah. Wouldn't be the first character to bring back from Beyond the Grave, that's for sure.
Yes, definitely.
I've I've got another if I can go, which I think everyone probably had this one on their list as well. And that's Lee from The Walking Dead.
Oh, fuck
The,
yeah.
Telltale series.
yeah.
Lee
Everett,
Everett, was it? I think that was his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the that death, I think we can all agree, was pretty fucking brutal.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Super good.
sort of stands the test of time as one of the greatest, I reckon. You spend so much time throughout the game, playing as Lee and getting to know and caring for Clementine, and then the ending of it kind of passing the torch in a way and sort of capping off his little journey is really heartfelt and really, really sad. Truly sad, like a really sad character death that has a lot of emotional weight to it.
Oh,
Those are the ones that tend to stay with me, I think.
Definitely.
Giving Clementine like the last little pieces of advice, then it keeps popping up with the like Clementine will remember that thing. And it's just like so sad.
That's
like,
right.
Yeah, like kind of saying like you're gonna die, but what you're doing is gonna live on. Like you're helping Clementine is gonna matter. Kind of makes it extra kind of super sad, but still like a little hopeful that you've been good to Clementine.
Oh man, it wasn't just that. Like she's only 8 years old, and she's in a position where like her new father figure has been bitten. He's half zombified. He's going to turn real soon, and you literally take over as Clem and have the choice whether to shoot Lee or leave him to basically transition. And man,
But you ask her to or not?
Is that it? Yeah. No, that's right. 'cause you don't take over until the second
but
series.
you can ask her to.
Yeah, but even so, that's rough. That's super rough.
Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to tell her to do it. I just let her go away and didn't get shot.
Yep, nasty.
Oh, you know what just sprang to mind actually while talking about Walking Dead, which is also really good, is the character you play, Simon Jarrett in Soma. His death.
Oh yeah, which one?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a really sorry, that just sprang to mind, but I think that's a really cool character death too.
It is. I want to quickly move from some really, really good deaths to some terrible deaths because I kind of took this topic a little bit as like my favorite gaming deaths, not just like the most epic ones.
Oh, for sure.
And some gaming deaths I like because of how terrible they are, in particular because of the voice acting. So one is that I encountered recently. It's in the first Devil May Cry game. And it's the character Trish. She does end up coming back to life, but there's this really emotional scene where Dante is standing over Trish as she's gone limp from being mortally wounded, and then this lovely dialogue is delivered.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light.
It's awful. So
Oh, dear God.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light.
Excellent.
And it's just delivered in such an awful way. And then there's another one which I haven't actually played the game, but this is so famous that I had to bring it up. And it's Mega Man X4. And again, it's the protagonist this time Zero, and he's crying over Iris, who's just recently died, and then he delivers this stellar voice acting.
No, this isn't happening. There's no reason for me to go on. What?
Oh, dear God.
What am I fighting for?
That's amazing.
Yep.
So, Adrian, you're the big Mega Man fan. It was that one that stuck in your head as well? Is that?
No, I must admit it was completely forgettable. I can't recall that one at all, if we're being honest.
Like, yeah, I never played it, but I've like seen that in memes and stuff before, and it's so hilariously bad.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I want that clip.
And then
we'll put that in something at some point, I'm sure.
One last one that I want to quickly sneak in is a character that Death Witch isn't terrible, but it's Sniper Wolf in Metal Gear Solid 1. Because she gives what's probably the might be the longest Kojima death monologue. So characters in Metal Gear Solid games are famous for recounting their life story as they die. And Sniper Wolf does it for 7 minutes straight. So
Holy shit.
Wow.
Yeah. So no kidding. She's lying there bleeding to death. Snake is sort of cradling her in his arms, and she monologues for 7 minutes about her life and how she was raised on the battlefield and how her gun is a part of her and all this stuff. And yeah, it just keeps going. But she is a good character, so it's kind of a mix of good and bad. And then there's one final sound clip I wanted to play, which is what's his name? What's the geek guy in Metal Gear Solid name?
Otacon.
Otacon.
Yeah.
How did that escape me? It's Otacon talking to Snake after Sniper Wolf has died, and the dialogue just dovetails so perfectly from the Mega Man X4. So check it out.
Snake! What was she fighting for? What am I fighting for? What are you fighting for?
And I just love that. What are you fighting for? What am I fighting for? It reminds me of the why is Gamora in Infinity War.
Oh, that is amazing. Oh, God.
Okay.
Good.
If we're gonna talk about bad ones, I have to bring up one that I actually was really sad about, and I still am sad about today. But Sergeant Johnson dying in Halo 3 was so dumb.
I'm sorry, but Sergeant Johnson sounds like a euphemism for
yes,
something.
Yes, it does.
Was it a flaccid death, Matt? Was it?
It was pretty flaccid. So Sergeant Johnson's this total badass character in the Halo series, and when you actually read the extended universe stuff, he is so cool. He was actually supposed to be one of the original Spartans, and basically he's immune to the Flood, so he's able to constantly fight the Flood and everything. Really cool. And then he gets killed by a gigantic metallic beach ball, which isn't very good. It's this really when I was playing the game as a kid, when I'm in my teen years and everything, Halo was always this series that is kind of upbeat and everything and jovial, and even though you're dealing with galactic ramifications if you don't get things right, it was always at least a little bit funny. And so Sergeant Johnson being killed, even though the death was really fucking stupid, actually had a massive impact on me. I remember crying the first time it happened, because suddenly I realized that the stakes were really, really high. Because, hey, if they're going to kill Sergeant Johnson off, then, is the Arbiter next? Is Chief next? What the fuck? And it totally shook me when I was playing back as a kid. But, he gets zapped in the back of the head, basically, by said gigantic metallic beach ball. And it's so dumb. It's for a character that is such a badass, it is a stupid, stupid death, followed by an even stupider boss fight. So, yeah.
Sensational.
I'm gonna quickly cap off my list. I have two rather quick ones. One that I just encountered not long ago in Borderlands 2. There's an area of the game that's sort of cliffside, and you're fighting a tribe of psychos sort of across this cliff face, and you come across this one random psycho who screams at you to shoot him in the face, and his name is Face McShooty, and he stands in front of you, and he's like, "Shoot me in the face! Shoot me! Pull the gun out! Shoot me in the face!" And he just screams at you non-stop. And you walk up to him, and you accept your quest, and in a normal quest box dialogue, it says, "Face McShooty, he wants you to shoot him in the face. Objective, shoot him in the face." You shoot him in the face, and he dies, and you complete the quest, and that's it. So one of the most random and shortest quests and most interesting deaths, probably for me.
No, the best part of that
has been that.
The best part of that is as he dies, he goes, "Thank you."
That's also a memorable part. But
yes.
I'd submit this to you, fellow podcasters: the single most traumatic and inspiring and meaningful death I've ever encountered in any video game ever. Far Cry 3. I resisted for a long time, and I didn't want to kill any turtles in Far Cry 3.
Of course.
Because I love them so much. And then I thought to myself, I've crafted everything else in the game. Do I want to see what you can craft with a turtle shell? Surely you can turn one of them big Galapagos shells into something. So, sorry, this is hard for me. I approached the turtle, and I tried to shoot it, and you can't shoot its shell. So I knelt down in front of it, and I shot it in its face hole, and it died. And I just was shattered inside, and I couldn't enjoy the game after that. I couldn't live with myself, knowing what I had done. And for me, that is without a doubt the most significant video game death for me was, and I've written it down in my list as that turtle I killed in Far Cry 3.
Adrian, you shot it in its face hole, and you're claiming that you were shattered inside? What the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Did you mention that you can't craft anything with it?
Yes, that's the true tragedy.
Yeah.
It's
complete waste.
Crafting. Yeah. After all that, you can't craft anything with the turtle shell. It doesn't even drop a turtle shell. It just died.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I think I remember telling you about this, Christian, and how upset I was.
Yeah, I've heard it before.
I don't think I'll ever get over it, to be honest. That's the last item on my list.
I want to flip this around to perhaps one of the most satisfying deaths that I have experienced in a video game. And it was prefaced by an entire game full of satisfying deaths. And of course, I am talking about the master of death animations, the 2016 Doom. So glory kills are a thing in this game, like the ability to actually sort of run up and finish off an enemy that's sort of, pulsating with the glow after you've done a bunch of damage to it, and just like completely rip and tear things open with the various different finishing animations is a hallmark of that game, and it's amazing. There's a whole bunch of really amazing deaths, and it looks like we're going to get a lot more of them in Doom Eternal, which is awesome. But the most satisfying death, of course, is the very final boss, where you deal with this massive sort of spider demon that sort of rips its way out of the ground in the middle of hell, and you have to fight this thing. And as you get it down onto its last points of health and finish up the fight, you run up to the thing, you jam your BFG down its throat, and you eviscerate this thing in one of the biggest explosions of death energy you've ever seen. And my God, it feels good at the time that you let that thing fly. So, man, a game that's all about blood and death and gore and just like the most articulate animations of finishing moves on a variety of different demons, that was just the cap for a fantastic experience in that game, just killing stuff. So yeah, I had to throw a mention in for that one. But story-wise, one that I actually wanted to talk about was like a really, really well-known character that I think that they sort of incorporated a fantastic build-up to an end, a very fitting end for this one in a kind of unexpected way at the end. And that was actually the ending for the Joker in Arkham City. So how many of you guys have actually played through Arkham City and Arkham Asylum, or, at least one or the other?
Yeah, I've played them all.
Yeah, so, I mean, the amazing thing about the Joker sort of being killed off in Arkham City is that throughout the entire game of Arkham City, the Joker is actually dying. Like, he's been infected with the virus that he actually sort of took in Arkham Asylum, when he sort of, the final boss fight in Arkham Asylum is basically the Joker souped up on this drug that's been created.
It's terrible.
I forget what it's called. Like, he turns into this giant sort of, basically Goliath maniac machine, like kind of the stuff that Bane has. I forget the name of the toxin, but anyway, he's basically suffering from the after effects of that throughout all of Arkham City, and he's slowly dying. Like, his blood is poisoned. He's basically expiring at a very slow rate. So he's still, making life extremely hard for you, and you still have to deal with all of his goons and a whole bunch of different things throughout Arkham City. But it sort of comes to a head right at the end of the game after you've dealt with a few of the other major villains that are a big part of the story for that game, and you hunt him all the way down to this rundown theater. And then finally sort of have to have the final battle with him. And then he does die, and it's just a really dramatic sort of, well sort of, laid out, scene, and the fact that Batman has sort of taken down his, his arch enemy in such a weird way. And I think there was actually a way that you could have saved him towards the end, but somehow you didn't, like the cure ends up getting smashed or something like that. And just the way it all plays out was fantastic. And the greatest thing about it all is that they still managed to get Mark Hamill to reprise the role of the Joker in the third Arkham game, Arkham Knight. Well, I mean, technically the fourth if you count Origins, but we're talking about the main three sort of story arc here. And, the Joker then sort of becomes a figment of Batman's imagination, and actually he has to battle him in a psychological way throughout the entire game then as well. So, talk about a long, drawn-out character death, but still is super satisfying when it comes to the way that it sort of leans into the story. I thought that the way they actually did the Joker throughout those games was just amazing. So that's a big memorable one for me, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to give one last one for me. And that's the entire cast of Mortal Kombat but not for that reason, not because they die in every game repeatedly, but actually in the story mode of Mortal Kombat 9, in the prologue of the story, the entire cast of Mortal Kombat is like killed. Every single character except for Raiden and Shao Kahn just get obliterated. And then like Raiden sends a message to his past self, saying he must win. It's like a cryptic message. And then you actually play like past Raiden. But just the opening cutscene is awesome, and it's just a bloodbath, and every single character dies.
That's cool. Did they all die in sort of like combat with each other, or was there like some sort of large explosion that just takes them all out in one hit, or how did that actually play out?
It's like a army versus army situation where they're all kind of split into two different camps and fighting each other, and then like everyone manages to kill one another except Raiden and Shao Kahn.
Amazing. That's cool.
Oh, actually, that reminds me. I mentioned one Halo game, but I can't not mention. So, how far into Reach are you right now, Luke?
Probably far enough for this to be a spoiler, so I'm just going to take the headset off.
Yes, go ahead and take a headset off for the next couple of seconds because I'm going to mention something right at the end of the game.
Cool.
But yeah. So Noble Six's death at the end of Halo Reach is fucking incredible. Like, it is so cool because basically you are left on Reach. You've got no backup. Everybody else is off the planet. And you basically are just in a situation where you just have to fight wave after wave of enemies that keep on coming for you. And eventually you just, you die. Like, you can't take them all. And you basically are kind of watching this moment of Noble Six finally just collapsing to his knees. His helmet's smashed. You see him, get stuck between a whole bunch of elites and he gets cut through. It is just an amazing death, and it's actually really satisfying, even though you've just gone through this whole game as this character, because the way they advertise it from the very get-go, it's like, from the beginning, you know how it ends, and that is your Spartan dies. So, yeah.
All right, hello. Hey, back. I'm back.
Welcome back.
Nice. All right, I'm going to assume that's something that's going to be extremely difficult for me to edit around, so awesome.
Yep.
Fantastic. All right, well, I mean, I think that's a pretty good list anyway. We've covered some pretty epic final moments for characters tonight, and I'm sure that our audience has many of their own, and I think there's definitely some industry standard ones out there that we haven't spoken about tonight that people will be like, why didn't you mention Sarah from The Last of Us or Garrus or any of these other characters? Yeah, we just don't have time to talk about every single one, so... Or Aerith from Final Fantasy VII.
Dies?
Yeah. Well, Garrus...
Yeah, boo.
Garrus dies? No, he doesn't. Does he? No, he doesn't.
You never see on-screen death, no.
No, that's right. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, plenty of them. And I'm sure we're going to get more major character deaths of big franchises to come. And probably a few that are overdue, if we're being honest. So we'll see. We will see. But anyway, that is a show. So thank you very much for listening tonight. I hope you've enjoyed the show. So we've got a certain little movie coming out next week involving a certain little detective that I'm kind of keen to see. Is that on the list of to-dos for you guys as well? Who's going to actually go see Detective Pikachu? Yeah? And good?
Yeah, I plan to. Yep.
Nice.
Yep, I'll see it tomorrow.
So I'm jumping on a plane to Bali tomorrow, so I'm probably going to have to try and find a way to see it over there with the kids. But I don't know. I'm sure there'll be a bunch of cinemas playing it, so that'll be cool. But yeah. Matt, we're 1 week away from Rage 2.
I know, and I actually have plans during the day now, so I don't know if I'm going to get any time to actually play it. So we'll see.
Have we heard if there's any multiplayer sort of features in that game at all? Is it going to be possible for us to play together in the slightest, or no?
I have not heard anything about any sort of multiplayer features, and quite honestly, cool, because I want... Doom was an excellent single-player game. It did not need multiplayer, right? Like, it is just... It doesn't need it. So as long as they make Rage that, fuck yes, let's go.
Yep, 100% agree. 100% agree. Nice. So, Adrian, you should totally check out that SteamWorld game. I'm super curious about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm keen to check it out. We'll see how we go during the week.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. And Christian, is Rage going to sort of be any sort of fix to your current Sekiro fugue that you're in, or is that...
Probably not, because I am flying off to Europe at the end of this month, and I'll be away. So I would only have a few days, maybe a week at most, to play Rage, which won't be long enough.
Yeah.
But I might pick it up when I get back.
That's entirely fair. Yeah, it's certainly not a game that you can get excited about when you're going to be jumping on a plane immediately afterwards. So, yeah. All right, well, anyway, we'll wrap it there. We'll call it a night. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And thanks, gentlemen, again, for a fantastic chat about everything great in the world of video games, especially all things that died in our hearts. Especially the small turtles. Those poor turtles.
No, I'm sad.
All right, well, in the meantime, you can get us at all the usual places. So mail at partyloaded.com, on Facebook, at Partyloaded Show on Twitter, and check out everything else we've got going on at our main hub at channelendgame.com. That's it from me. That's it from these guys. That's it for all of us. We'll see you again next week. Until then, enjoy your games, and good night.
Goodbye.
Bye. The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.